Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful to be joined by Paul Leendertse. Did I get that last name right?
Close enough. It's
Close enough.
Leander. It's
Leendertse.
Leanderts. Yeah.
Leendertse, there we go.
Yeah.
He's the author of The Root Cause of Cancer. For those that are watching on YouTube and Rumble, this is the book here. He also runs the Wheel of Life one-on-one group, sort of like retreat academy as well. He's a cancer coach. He's an author. He's an awesome person. His content's awesome. His information's awesome. And it's so powerful. Just like everything else in the world, the truth about cancer is just another one of the many layers that's been hidden from us. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Paul today about everything to do with his story, cancer, and this information. Like, this information is so powerful. So I'm really grateful, really humbled to be joined by the great man today. And Paul, I'll mute my microphone and you can just speak away, mate. I'm really looking forward to this today.
Wow. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your introduction.
No worries.
um, yeah. Well, thanks for bringing me on to share about this because we really need a paradigm shift in the understanding of cancer. How to prevent it, how to heal. I call it reversing cancer because that's what I know to be possible, to reverse the process, because cancer is actually a process that is underway. And one of the things I've learned over the years and working with so many people with cancer, and what I teach down in my training, for example, and what I share with my clients, is that cancer's there's so much about cancer that has not been understood for the last 100 years in the war on cancer, and still isn't understood mainstream. But yeah, this is a paradigm shift is underway. I really believe we're hitting a paradigm shift now. It's like time. But for example, cancer can exist in three different states. It's not just the mainstream idea or concept that cancer grows out of control. It's just not true. Cancer can stop growing and remain dormant. One of my students, for example, that's taking my next training, she's had breast cancer now for 7 years. And she's someone who, she shared with me, she just absolutely never wanted to do any traditional treatments. So
Wow.
for 7 years, she has been focused on trying to heal naturally, and she's done all sorts of alternative things. And it hasn't worked yet to get rid of her cancer. Now she's doing my training. And as we'll get to this, I don't have an alternative approach to cancer. So I'll have to explain that.
Yeah.
But so she's been trying alternative things, and she never wanted to do conventional, so she didn't. But what she has managed to accomplish, though, is that the tumor has sat in her breast now and only slightly gotten worse in 7 years. So, the mainstream theory is cancer's growing out of control, and it's very scary experience to have cancer. And fear is a powerful force that can drive people to make decisions that and I don't want to say that chemotherapy or surgery or radiation is necessarily a bad thing.
Mm.
Sometimes it's really truly helpful for people. But what it doesn't ever do is resolve the root cause of cancer. It can't. It's not
Mm.
even touching on what really was the cause. And because of that, that's why cancer oftentimes, unfortunately, this is just the bare truth of it, grows back. It just develops again. People are declared cancer free, and a month later or 6 months later, sometimes longer, cancer just shows up again, and now it's in a new part of the body or the same part or both. It's metastasized.
Mm.
And so, um, yeah, she's managed to make her cancer dormant, essentially, through all of her alternative approaches. But she hasn't been able to reverse it. But what I want to share here, though, is that cancer can be growing, it can become dormant, and it also can shrink and disappear. So this is part of the paradigm shift to really understand this. If you actually identify and resolve the root cause, then cancer dissolves. It just disappears. You don't even have to destroy it. And I'm not theorizing about this.
Mm.
I've been doing this for years and watched this happen. So it's an observation. It's an experience of mine, and I have testimonials of clients and so on. Because this is really how it works. This is part of the paradigm shift. We can actually address the root cause. The root cause is not genetics. It's none of these things that are disempowering and that just make it sort of out of our control. Like, there's nothing we can do except for go to war on this tumor. No, there's actually a lot you can do. So I just said a whole bunch. Should I take a little break there? Was there
Nah, it's
that's
fine. I'm the same. So I always had the feeling of like, well, the chemotherapy and the radiation, I was always questioning. I was like, well, why is it killing not only the cancer cells, but the bad and the good ones too? Like, why would it kill our good ones? I always was of the belief, aren't the good ones the ones that are fighting it? So why kill both? And then I realized, well, it's a much more bigger thing than just that. But that was always my questioning of it.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. If you it's understandable to want to get rid of a tumor, of course, because the tumor is certainly a sign that something is wrong.
Mm.
Something's going on that you don't want to be going on. It's a symptom. It's the message. And the mainstream like sort of medical approach often to symptoms, as most people understand, is to try to like shoot the messenger, get rid of the symptom. You
Yep.
have a headache, take a drug, but
Mm.
don't try to figure out what's really causing the headache. If you have a tumor, to have a treatment, but don't try to figure out what really truly caused that. And cancer is a big, big task, to actually resolve. If you try to look into what's causing a headache, it's usually a simpler task. If you try to look into what's causing a tumor, now you have to go into deep territories of psychology, emotional stress, and even spirituality.
Yep.
And that's why cancer's has been such a big task for humanity to tackle, and why the rate of cancer today is 1 in 2 people. After 100 years and zillions of dollars spent on a cure, focusing on trying to find what's going to destroy cancer cells next, just year after year after year, all this focus in laboratories. And only the odd time has there ever been any studies done on emotional causes of cancer. And in my second book coming out, for example, I do reference some studies that have been done uh, way back in like the 30s, 1930s. Someone did some science and did some research on people, not
Mm.
just cancer cells in a beaker in a laboratory, but on people and their lives. And that research found that there was a strong correlation between cancer appearing in a person's body after they're exposed to a lot of stress in their
Mm.
life. Like, oh, wow. Well, that's actually what I did for 10 years. I had people live with me with cancer for 3 weeks at a time who had tried everything alternative that they could manage to try. Um, and then also conventional things, a big combination, and yet nothing had worked. And now they're at a point where they're told they're going to die. So they had stage 4 cancer often.
Mm.
Most of my clients were stage 3 or 4 cancer, because then they're willing to work with someone like me. Like, because who am I? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a naturopath. I'm just some person with this wild idea that maybe stress is related to the cause of cancer.
Yeah.
And I've devoted my whole life to that, essentially. Like, really deeply
Mm.
devoted to this for years. I've worked with a lot of people with cancer, and without a doubt, I call this real research, really, working with people and asking
Mm.
every single person with cancer that I've ever worked with, what were the stresses in your life?
Mm.
What was actually going on in your life before you were diagnosed? Oh, well, someone died in my family. Oh, and then you developed lung cancer
Yep.
six months later. That's interesting. And so then over the years, every time I have someone with lung cancer, they're telling me similar types of stories. Some kind of big loss has occurred.
Mm.
So over time, I've just kind of been shown through the work of all of my clients that have devoted themselves to healing from within. Like, they've either given up on alternative and traditional approaches to destroy cancer, or they just somehow intuitively knew that they needed to work with someone like me to get to the root cause.
Mm.
Yeah, and then it's just shown me, well, this is the cause of lung cancer, this is the cause of ovarian cancer, this is the cause of testicular cancer, and so on. And it's not a theory for me. It's really wild, actually. Like, we're really getting into a paradigm shift, because the world seems to be more and more ready to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started to share this, when I first had like the first client that I worked with who reversed her cancer, she had stage 4 cancer, told she was going to die within 2 months. When I actually told people, and even when she told people, I'm cancer free now, and she's still cancer free today. It's been 10 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no treatments. Like, she did treatments first. It was just torture. She had 9 years of cancer coming back again, doing new treatments. Just she really went through hell, in
Mm.
her words too. That's her exact words. Um, she when I shared this with people, the first thing I get, unfortunately, is you're a quack, or it's not believable,
Yeah.
or it's hard to believe. It's just really difficult to believe. It's difficult for a lot of reasons. It depends. It's not always difficult. Some people are just like, yeah,
Mm.
exactly, of course. Like, your intuition's just telling you, like many
Mm.
people. But for someone who's lost someone to cancer, and then they find out about this new work, how there is a root cause, and it can be identified and resolved, and you can actually just heal. That could be just pain, just
Yeah.
unbearable to hear. Like,
Mm.
wait, I lost my mother, or I lost my father, and actually they could have potentially healed.
Mm.
And that's something I've experienced myself too, because that's like you mentioned in the beginning when we first spoke today. Yeah, my stepfather died of lung cancer. He did everything alternative and traditional that we could come up with. Same with my best friend's father. And that's when I realized, way back then, that was in 2008, and that's when I kind of began this work, that something's wrong with the theory of cancer. Something
Mm.
has to be wrong with the mainstream theory of cancer, because if we did all these things and it didn't work, then maybe it's because all these things are based on a theory of cancer. What if that theory is incorrect?
Mm.
Which it absolutely is. Absolutely is. So if we have a misconception or erroneous idea of what cancer is, then how can we possibly succeed truly at healing? And like, when I call success like a cancer-free world,
Mm.
or the rate of cancer is very small, not 1 in 2 people. That's not a success.
Yeah, I agree.
And in my level 1 training, cancer prevention coach, I share the story of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs died of pancreatic cancer. He was declared cancer free. A lot of people might not know this. This is the typical story, though. He was declared cancer free. I think about a year later, I could be wrong with the exact time, but I think it was a year later, then his cancer was back again. And now there was nothing that they could figure out to do to succeed in him getting rid of his cancer again, and he died. Now, this is a billionaire. This is one of the wealthiest men on the planet at that time, you know? So it kind of really helps. And if you look into the amount of celebrities that die of cancer too, it doesn't matter how much money you have, what kind of treatments and what kind of advanced things you can access. These things aren't addressing the root cause of cancer.
Mm.
And to address the root cause of cancer, like I said earlier, is actually really difficult. It's a big task, because you have to go through a spiritual initiation. You have to go through a spiritual process of transformation.
Mm.
You have to dig deep into your subconscious. You have to dig into your emotional well-being. You have to dig into your life and figure out, what is it that's not truly nourishing me? What's causing me stress? What's causing all these physiological changes in my body? Blood sugar surges, blood acidity. A lot of people think you can just eat an alkaline diet and that will make your blood alkaline. It doesn't work like that. If you're stressed psychologically, your blood becomes acidic. So
Mm.
you can have a perfect diet, but if you have challenges in your relationship, or suppressed emotions, unresolved psycho-emotional things, your blood will be acidic.
Mm.
So there's a lot more going on than it's really a tragedy. It's a shame. It's unfortunate that after 100 years of cancer research, they've not gone into this in a significant way. Um,
Mm.
but it comes with massive responsibility. Massive.
Mm.
Like, to heal, you must change your life.
Yep.
If you do chemotherapy, that doesn't mean your life's changing. You could just, the approach of the Cancer Societies is kind of like, we're going to find this cure so that if there's things going on in your life that aren't good for you, or you have belief systems, or you have fears, or you have something unresolved, challenges that have not been resolved, that's all fine. Just leave it how it is. We'll just give you the cure for your cancer that resulted in relationship to those factors. We'll just give you a cure so you can just leave it as it is, and now the problem will be solved. Of course that's impossible. Of course it's impossible, right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
so, you know, and a doctor doesn't typically have the time to even investigate what's going on in a person's life. They're not trained to do that. It's all about identify symptoms, call it a disease, give drugs, give some kind of a treatment, send the person back home. So when you really get into this work, which I've been doing for a long time, it's like opening a can of worms. It's like big changes can happen, and I'm excited because I really feel like it's time. You know, it's time. It's humanity's hungry for this. There's been so many losses. There's so much suffering around cancer. I mean, it's really tragic disease. Like, you know, there's a lot of loss. So I've had doctors take my training now. I've had 2 doctors take my training.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nurses. I've had multiple nurses, naturopaths, stay-at-home moms, personal trainers, and of course, all sorts of different health practitioners. People want to go deeper. They want to understand emotional healing. They want to understand spirituality, real spirituality.
Yep.
You know, like I've through all this work, I've ended up talking about things in the Bible, you know, because when you really get down deep into this stuff, I began discovering very obviously and clearly that many people that develop cancer are highly religious. It's really just the truth, and it might be shocking for people to understand that, but the number of people that have had cancer, and right in the beginning of a session with me, they say, "Okay, before we go any further, Paul, I just want to find out, like, for sure, are you a Christian?"
Wow.
And I think, whoa, like, I'm someone that can potentially help you figure this out, but your main priority is to see first, am I a Christian? But you have cancer. So being a Christian hasn't helped you with that. Right? And I've actually created a course now called Spiritual Laws for Surviving and Thriving Through Times of Crisis, because I've had to go so deep into spirituality to figure this out.
Wow.
Because people will pray, for example, and they might be a devoted Catholic or a devoted Christian or whatever the religion is, but they don't actually know how to pray. They're praying in a way that actually doesn't help. There's proper ways to pray, for example.
Yes.
You don't even have to call it prayer. You could call it setting a goal, really, but
yeah, intention.
Yes, it's setting intention. It is a deeper thing. I think I should really acknowledge that prayer is actually a powerful, different kind of thing.
Very.
But there's a lot of value in some of the religious teachings, tons. But something has happened over time where they've been misunderstood. They're just totally misunderstood. And so when Christians pray, and here's the thing, it's like, if we're going to change, if we're going to go through a paradigm shift and actually make progress and success with cancer and make this world a better place, we have to be willing to change.
Yes.
And many people will pray about, like, this has happened so many times, and then the person dies after they prayed and after everyone prayed for them, and then they die, and they're praying and praying and praying to God, please, 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 please help. And then they die. And then after they say, okay, well, I guess God just decided it was their time. And then next time they do the same thing. Pray, 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 pray. And then a person dies. Like, so it's challenging to question one's life, you know, like, hold on a second. Maybe there's something going on that isn't accurate with what I'm learning in church. If you consider that, it can cause a lot of fear to come up, a lot of disempowerment, like, whoa. But I'm serious. It's a really big deal. A session I did recently with someone, and it's not, this isn't just about Christianity or religion, so I should talk about other aspects of cancer. It's just a big one that's come up recently, so it's
Yeah.
fresh in my mind. You know, I did a session with someone recently, and one of her deep wounds was related to her father being abusive to her sister right in front of her. And I won't go into the details, but it was traumatic. He was extremely abusive to her sister. This has affected her whole life. And this was a highly religious Catholic man. He took their kids to church 3 times a week, and yet he beat his daughter so badly that she was black and blue from head to toe.
Wow.
This is a religious, loving man. So how can you go to church for 50 years and then utterly beat the shit out of your daughter over a small little thing? So part of the reason I'm bringing some intensity to this is because preventing and reversing cancer is actually a very immense task. You got to get really serious about being ready to become more aware and become more conscious of deeper things and start changing stuff. You know, really start changing life itself. No, you can't just eat as a vegetarian and then your cancer goes away. It's not going to work. The number of people that I've had work with me that are vegetarian or vegan that have cancer is very high.
Yeah, right.
Very high. And this is one of the things that it's taught out there too. Like if you get cancer, you got to stop eating meat. Meat's a carcinogen. It's just not true. So it's like this work that I've done is not really common. There isn't a lot of people out there that have lived with people with cancer for 10 years straight, focused on identifying the root cause of their cancer. Like not once did we try to destroy their cancer. Just specifically asking them, what's going on in your life? What are the stresses? Have you had challenges in your relationship, etc.? And so most of my clients would tell me, you're the first person that's ever even asked me that. In 5 years of my battle with cancer, I've gone to all these specialists and different people, and no one's ever asked me how much stress is in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's like there's no, like, how could stress be the cause of cancer?
Yeah.
That's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Now, the cause of cancer is pollution in the air, or the cause of cancer is genetics, or the cause of cancer is, you know, whatever.
That genetics is a big one. A lot of people believe, oh, it's in the family, so I'm just susceptible to it. It's so much more than that.
It's very disempowering, and it's serious, actually. If you really think about it, that belief makes you stuck. It's
Agreed.
Like now you just have to develop cancer, I guess.
Yep. But it's not just cancer, it's every other illness, disease out there. It's like, oh, it's in the family, so I'm just going to get it.
Exactly.
Mate, that's the big one right there.
Yeah, and I've got a couple things to share about that.
Beautiful.
One is that the thing that runs in the family that, other than genetics, like sure, your skin might be genetically passed on, like the color of your skin or the color of your hair, maybe these types of things, certain physical features. But the thing that is passed on, which leads to disease, is behaviors, ego structures, value systems, belief systems, ways of coping with challenges of life. You know, like if in your childhood, when you made if you made a mistake in your childhood, and how your parents dealt with that is to punish you and scold you and shame you and guilt you, which is like sort of the foundation of the whole entire school system, right? Like if you don't get an A on your report card, you're punished because, you know, you're labeled in some way it doesn't feel good. Like if you don't get an A, it's like, yeah, fuck, I'm not perfect. And I'm not as good as the other people who got the A. And now your parents could be like ashamed of you and all sorts of things. But yeah, if in your childhood, that's how you were treated if you made a mistake, well, then first of all, you don't learn as a child how to treat others when they make mistakes or they're imperfect, because who taught you? You didn't even learn. So then later in life, if someone makes a mistake, then typically what people do is they just act the same way. They start punishing, guilting, shaming. Like, how can you do any different? You can't. If you've never learned how to tie your shoe, how can you teach someone else to tie their shoe?
Yep.
You just so in childhood, what we take on, like our experience, really significantly shapes who we are when we're an adult, unless we consciously intervene and we consciously start to question our beliefs, reprogram our reality, maybe eat differently. Maybe we realize, oh wait, it's not so healthy to just drink alcohol after a hard day's work. That's what my dad did, and that I'm doing that, but he died of liver disease. So I got to change these things, right? So we kind of, to prevent cancer and also to reverse cancer, we have to actually take responsibility for ourselves and our life in a deep way, where we start to consciously intervene and change the way we view our world, how much we love ourselves, our behaviors, and so on. If this isn't done, then it runs in the family. And these things that run in the family lead to stress. They can easily lead to stress. One of the biggest sources of stress as a human being in life is relationship stress.
Spot on.
Right? And so that's what runs in families, which can cause cancer, not genetics. And it's just a scientific fact that the breast gene, for example, what is it called? The BCR1 gene, or whatever it is. Many people, I've had many clients with breast cancer that do not have that gene.
Wow.
But yet the science says that that's what that disposes you, pre-exposes you to breast cancer genetically. But people get breast cancer that don't have the gene. And then in my first book, for example, I quote research of twins who were separated at birth, and the twin that's raised with the biological family doesn't go on to develop cancer, but the twin that's raised in the adopted family does develop cancer. And then you can see, then when you look into the family history, that family has a history of cancer, but the biological family doesn't have a history of cancer, and that twin doesn't develop it. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty revealing, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, if we really start to look at the truth of what's really going on, it puts tremendous responsibility on everybody, like all of us. We got to take responsibility for ourselves. And many people think that I'm coming from, sometimes I've had people, not many, but sometimes people feel like I'm coming in this approach of sort of like being blaming or trying to guilt people or something. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying humanity has a lot to heal. We got a lot to change. It's difficult. It's hard. It's not about being perfect. It's about actually loving yourself and accepting where things might need to change.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself if you've ever done something wrong or imperfect. You got to be able to love yourself and forgive yourself if that's the case. Because if you don't, then yeah, it's pretty difficult to just look at what's wrong or not ideal or scary and change it. Because if you don't do that, then of course you can't change it.
Spot on. People are just, I feel people, I don't know what you feel, people, I feel people are just comfortable being comfortable as well. They don't want to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the human, it's nice to have a rest sometimes, from the challenges of life. And, but you should only rest for so long. You gotta engage in the journey of life, because well, you don't have to. That's the thing. We have free will. Like, we really, really do have free will. We can do whatever we want with our life. But if you don't grow, then you become stagnant. And it's like water that flows and moves and goes on the journey and has new experiences pretty much remains fresh and life-serving. You've got like nice living creatures in there. But water that slows down and just stops moving turns into a swamp.
That's it.
It starts to smell. It starts to grow things that aren't really nice. So as a human being, I really feel like spirituality has been lost in a massive way. And I think one of the reasons is because concepts about God and stuff either really piss people off right away. Like, as soon as you say the word God, people can easily get pissed off, because there's so much corruption and dogmatism and all sorts of stuff around religion that has really tainted the whole thing. I gave the example of the father who's taking his kids to church 3 times a week, but meanwhile he beats the shit out of them. Whoa, like, do you think his kids are going to want to hear about God or church when they're finally adults? Probably not. So and then so then people tend to want to focus on science instead, like, you can't even prove God exists, so screw it all anyways. Let's just stick to science, which is provable. But then, of course, 2020 makes it very clear that science can be just as corrupt as any religion, if not even worse. Science can, it's like science sells. Science sells. So if you want to sell something, just do some research, pay off. If you got to pay someone $5 million to show certain research, and then write 10 articles over the course of a year on some website and get it out to the public, get it onto the radio, now you make 100 million in sales because the science says so. So it gets difficult to navigate this world as a human, and so we can run into all sorts of stresses. Like, look what 2020 did. How much guilting, shaming, fighting, blaming, how much fear. Wow. How much stress does that cause?
Mate, even just like the mental health issues just soared. Like, people were just like, yeah. I was grateful for that period. I went through and did some of my healing journey and started my healing journey through that period. I was grateful for it. But a lot of people went the other way though, didn't they? They were just, yeah, mate. Yep. I'm hearing you.
Well, a big part of healing, like real spiritual growth work, really boils down to becoming more independent.
Correct.
Becoming more self-loving, self-accepting, more capable of fulfilling your needs yourself. And so that's a process that is not necessarily easy at all to do that, but that's how it is. That's what real spiritual growth is. So when the pandemic hit, the health protocol
health protocol.
The health protocol was, okay, start fighting with your neighbors and telling them that they have to keep you safe. Don't go outside and get fresh air. Don't get exercise. Like in Canada, where I was living, they
put
just
a mask on.
Shut down the nature trails. So you were not allowed to go out into nature
They did
anymore.
it here too. They did it here in Australia as well.
Yeah, you can't walk out in nature.
No.
That is too dangerous.
Put a mask on.
Yeah. So anyways, it was just mind-blowing to me what happened. Yeah, but what it did is the lockdown forced people into separation. Like, it forced change, significant change that was not asked for, that was pushed. We lost freedom. Freedom is one of the most important healing factors, actually, to be free.
I agree.
It is. This is why when people go on vacation, they oftentimes get better. Their health improves. Now it depends, because you can still go on vacation and eat a whole bunch of shit and drink yourself sick of alcohol and stay up all late, and then when you get back, you're even worse. But but if you go on the kind of vacation that's healing, where you're free and you get out into nature, you relax, you nap in the day, you read your favorite books, you actually, and so on, you explore, you go on some adventures, then people just are astonished at how much their energy rises, how much they heal. So the lockdown just pushed people into the opposite, into all sorts of an unhealthy life practice and unhealthy relationship encouragements. Like, where people are being encouraged to go and try to control others, guilt them, shame them. This is the solution. So when people were forced into independence when they weren't ready for it, and especially when they don't have the tools to grow as an individual, then they just, actually, the opposite happens. They hit anxiety, they hit depression, even worse, they hit fears that they don't know how to manage and face. It could just utterly destroy a person. and that's why suicide was so high. Suicide went up because of the health authorities' advice. Well, it's not even advice, the
No.
mandates, right? Like,
Yeah.
the health authorities handcuffs. Okay.
Yeah. Mandate. Think about it. 2 men going
Yeah.
on a date. Mandate.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
I've let's move on to another topic, because
I
I,
agree.
I I try to bring some humor to the ridiculousness of what's happened, but yeah, it's great that we're not in lockdown anymore. A lot of truth is coming out. People are
Yeah.
realizing, like, my mom's my best sorry my one of my closest friends' moms died right after getting the vaccine. She died of a heart attack. So people are realizing, well, not everyone yet, but
Not
it's
everyone.
I think it's moving in the right direction, that we really have to look after ourselves. We got to take responsibility for our own health.
Yep.
We do have an immune system. That is the long-term solution, not a
Mm.
not a world of X number of injections every year, and that's going to somehow make the human race healthy.
Mm.
And Pfizer just came out with, there's a video now of the director of Pfizer on a date. It's funny you said mandate. The director of Pfizer is actually gay. Anyways,
Okay.
he's on a mandate. So,
Yeah.
but the guy that was going on the date with them was undercover.
Right.
Yeah, an
I haven't
undercover
seen this.
journalist. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really astonishing.
Okay.
And so they get drunk together on this date, right? They're drinking alcohol, and then he starts just talking, and he talks about how Pfizer has been discussing. They're like, you know what? Why don't we just make more viruses? We can just make new variables and new variants, because then we can just create a new vaccine for each one of those variants. And he just shares this. This is what's being discussed at Pfizer. It's shocking.
Yeah.
And then he says right on the date, like, we don't tell the public that, though. We
Yeah.
wouldn't tell the public, of course.
No.
And he just
No.
laughs like he's drunk. He's drunk, so he just laughs like, oh,
Yeah.
but this is what they're discussing. Like, how can we make more variants, make more viruses, so that then so we can sell more vaccines.
Mm.
So essentially, if we get into this vaccine world, this new normal, then we're really handing over our power.
Oh yeah.
This is even worse than maybe the genetics theory of cancer. If you
Mm.
want to hand over your power, just say, okay, it's genetics. Just come and look after me.
Yeah.
Or, okay, I can't be healthy unless you give me the injections. You got to look after me. Like, this is not spiritual growth. It's not how
No.
you keep yourself healthy long term. It's just how it is.
Mm.
So yeah, the paradigm shift is here. The Great Awakening is here. All
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
people are like, okay, enough of this shit. Enough of all the pharmaceutical drugs and not addressing the deeper symptoms, the deeper causes. Enough of all the treatments. There's a lot of people that are sick of. I don't know how many people have watched their family members go through endless rounds of chemotherapy and treatments and then
I
die.
have. I have.
So
Mm.
people have had enough of it, and I just
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, it's time for humanity to start taking responsibility for ourselves. Like, the government's not going to keep the environment clean. We got to do
No.
it. The
And
government,
there's no savior either. We save ourselves.
right? That's another religious
Yep. It is.
problem.
Mm.
This concept that, I share with people that heaven and hell exist here on earth too. At the
Yes.
very least, it exists here too. And
Yes.
people have the concept that we can just kind of do whatever here on Earth while we're a human. If we contaminate the planet, if we don't take responsibility for ourselves, whatever, that's okay. As long as we go to church, we'll go to heaven. And once we're in heaven, then it's everlasting. So it's almost like you don't even have to earn heaven. You can just do whatever you want. Like this father that was abusive to his daughter, you just do whatever. But as long as you're going to church, then you'll go to heaven.
No, it doesn't work
Is
like
that
that.
really how that would work? I wouldn't think so.
No.
And to be honest, I think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, because of the karmic cycle. Like
Thank you.
he's karma. Yeah, karma.
Right.
His karma is not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I talk about in my spiritual laws course. There is such a thing as spiritual justice.
Yes, there is.
There is karma, good karma and bad karma.
Yep.
Yeah, if you want to get to heaven while you're here on earth, create good karma.
Yep.
If you want to get to hell, create bad karma. And what's heaven? Well, real happiness, freedom, living a meaningful life, feeling proud about your contributions to how you make this world a better place. You're a contributor. You don't got to do it yourself, but find your passions and find your gifts and give them.
Mm.
You know, you don't have symptoms in your body. You got lots of energy. You have play. You enjoy. You know, this is heaven on earth. You're in an environment with clean air,
I love this.
nutrient dense food. There's heaven.
Yes, I love
What's
that.
hell? Hell is you're not an independent person. You're dependent on the more people, the better. If you want to be in hell, to be dependent on more people. You know, pain in your body, low energy,
Mm.
um, all kinds of unresolved challenges with people. People that love you treat you like shit. Is that really love? You know, disease, suffering, loss of dreams.
Yeah.
It's possible to go to hell in this lifetime. In this lifetime,
I
right? And it's
agree.
possible to go to heaven. So the thing is, we can't get to heaven unless we actually just are willing to learn, change, grow, take responsibility for ourselves, face our fears, shed belief systems,
Yep.
recognize if we're in judgment. It's important to be able to recognize if you're in judgment. A lot of people, there's some importance to distinguish the difference between observation and judgment. Because a lot of judgment happened in the last couple of years, you know.
Oh yeah.
And it happens all the time.
That's both sides too. That's our. I don't want to say it's sides,
true.
but it is true. Yeah, because
it's both sides. There's
I
lots
agree.
of judgment happening in every direction.
Oh yeah.
And so a judgment is you know that you're in judgment if you're calling people names, if you're classifying a person into a certain like like a label. So for example, if you're to call someone a narcissist, like they're a narcissist, that's a judgment. An observation would be something more like this: that person's acting narcissistically, and
Yeah.
and they're acting narcissistically for a reason, because they have, you know, there's a reason for this. They're wanting to be right. It hurts to be wrong. Maybe they have childhood trauma. Maybe they're acting this way because they're trying to get their needs met. They think their opinion matters more. They think they're right, but they don't realize that it's okay to be imperfect, and they're not actually perfect. And so they're acting narcissistically. But this can change, of course, and you can sort of love them more from a distance. Now you would have boundaries, like, no, you can't treat me like shit or treat me this way. That's not okay. But a judgment is they're a narcissist. A judgment has like a lot of negative energy. Like the heavier you're in judgment, the more negative energy is just coming out, and it's being projected at others with blaming, shaming, attacking, like actually wanting to harm the other. Whereas if you could see that a person's acting narcissistically, because sometimes people have that challenge, that's in their growth process, and they need to learn certain things, there's deeper stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like it hurts to be wrong. It actually hurts to be wrong. So it's easier to just try to be right about everything. You know, like, you know, you're the one that knows. Because if you're to actually be, if you find fault in yourself, that hurts. So a person might not even know how to process their emotions. One of the things I teach in cancer prevention coach training is how to process your emotions, because we're not even taught this.
No.
So what do you do if you're wrong? Like, what do you actually do if you're wrong? Well, you apologize.
Yeah.
You own it.
Yeah.
You say you're sorry. Sometimes it's appropriate to give a gift, and you make yourself devoted to the truth more than your own ego, or more than someone being right versus wrong. It's just, what is the truth? That's part of spirituality, being devoted to the real truth. And that's how you grow. That really is growth. If you will not admit that you've been wrong, you just stay stuck. It's like that stagnant swamp. You're not growing as a human being. And the thing is, in the process of the human journey, everyone's got to be wrong at some point.
Mm-hmm.
like, aren't we all going to be wrong at least once? Like, couldn't we just admit at least once we'll be wrong about
Yeah.
something? We're in a spiritual growth process. I said that earlier. I think real spirituality has been lost
Yes.
because there's this new concept. Either a person becomes like, it's really common to just become like strictly scientific. Only what's measurable and provable exists, and life is just all about information, kind of a thing. Or then there's religion, which is that as long as you go to church and read the Bible or something, you're going to go to heaven. But spirituality is realizing that we all have higher potentials as a human being. We actually have a growth process that we can engage in, where we become more and more conscious of higher level and act in higher levels of love. You know, like if you're somebody that's eating processed food, that in a deeper way is a reflection of what's going on in your life and what's going on in your ego structure and your own self-worth and what you're conscious of. So as you devote yourself to becoming more conscious and more self-loving and more life-serving, you would eat less and less and less fast food and more food that's full of nutrition and that was grown with love and consciousness. So there's actually a transformation that happens. This is spirituality in the way I see it.
It's also the way I see it.
Okay, right.
We're on the same page.
It's the same with communication. If every time, if you find in your life, and this is common too, and I'll explain like why this is, but it's something that I've had to heal in myself too. Like all the stuff I talk about, I have to go. I'm in the spiritual journey too. It's not like I just like I'm this. So,
same here too. Same
right.
here as well.
Isn't
Like
it
some of
nice
the
just
stuff
to
you're saying, I'm going through all of
participate
it.
in it?
Oh yeah, we're participating. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. But for example,
Yep.
in the school system, there isn't really deep connection and communication with children,
Correct.
with students of school. Our actual desires, our actual feelings are not honored or respected, right? Like we have to go to school. Now, of course, at some point in the process, kids are like, I want to go to school, right? But generally speaking, from the beginning, way in the beginning, kids usually are crying, screaming their heads off. They don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Imagine having to sit in a desk for hours every day when you're a kid that actually wants to go play, climb trees, look at bugs, like find bird nests, like, dig holes, like explore, go on adventures, like figure out this world. Instead, we're just being forced to collect all this information. And then we're oftentimes receive judgments, right? Like you did that wrong. No, it has to be this way. So what can end up happening is then as an adult, if someone does something wrong or someone like gets on your nerves, then the subconscious program can be to just shame them or guilt them or like get angry at them, punish them, but not actually connect. Not actually just connect to them and understand, like, why did you do this? Why did this happen? What were you feeling? Oh, okay, I get it. Oh, that's why you did it. You know, instead it's just quick to punishment.
Yep.
Quick to punishment. And that's what happens in school, right? You do something wrong, you're punished. There's rarely deep connection. So spirituality then is to start to look at your ego construct, because your ego can change. If you learned that the appropriate thing to do with someone if they make a mistake is punish them, and then you realize, wait, there's probably higher forms of love. I could reprogram myself and start to change that behavior and try to make my automatic impulse not to shame or punish someone, but to connect to them and try to understand why they act the way they act, and then see if we can develop a new way of doing things that's more efficient or more effective or something. That would be love. But like our entire jail system, our court criminal system doesn't even do this, right? People break the law, they're punished. They're just put in jail for however many years, then they're let out again. And then you know what typically happens? They just end up in jail because they're not learning. Punishment doesn't even really, you know, it's not a long-term solution. Let's just say that. It's just like treatments for cancer are not a long-term solution because we're not digging deeper into things. They're like digging deeper is harder, but it's where you can actually change. You can actually change things and truly resolve things, and that change is permanent. So what I explain to people about cancer is that, like, I've had clients that have been told by others that cancer is a gift. And this is like moving in the right direction, but the clients have been pissed and they've said, I don't tell me cancer is a gift because I've heard that bullshit, and cancer's not a fucking gift because look at how much I'm suffering. And so what I teach is that cancer can become a gift. You can turn it into a gift. It's not a gift at first, that's for sure. But if you get hit with cancer, if you get a diagnosis with cancer, if you can turn that into a gift, you will heal. If you can turn it into a gift. And the only way you can turn it into a gift is if you respond to it by changing as many parts of your life, your relationships, yourself, everything you can. You become aware and conscious of as much as you can so that you can make positive changes in your life so your whole life transforms for the better for real. Now it becomes a gift, and you dissolve all the stress, all the unresolved stuff, and your cancer, lo and behold, disappears, which is supposed to be impossible, but it's not.
Wow.
So spirituality is needed.
Yep.
Desperately in the human race. We need to have a spiritual focus as part of our lives because that's what spirituality is about: personal evolution of the soul, rising to higher levels of consciousness. You can have a highly intelligent person that makes billions of dollars, but doesn't give a shit about the environment or other people. We got lots of billionaires on the planet that aren't actually making the world like truly a better place. They're maybe even making it a worse place. So how much money you have is not a reflection of your spirituality. How much sex you have is not a reflection of your spirituality. How much power you have is not a reflection. It's like that's something much deeper going on that has just been lost in the human race in a really big way.
It has. And I'm seeing it too. I was a teacher myself before this thing came in. So yeah, I would never go back into that system, but it's interesting that you say that with the children, because I feel that needs to be taught in schools, but it's not going to be taught in their school. I've got a dream of building my own like bush school and teaching this stuff again, teaching the spirituality, getting kids out there, hugging trees, playing in the dirt, using their imaginations and not having someone say, that's just your imagination. Get back over here and just work out what 30 plus 30 is.
Wow.
That is my dream, man.
I love your dream.
Please
keep energizing that dream.
Don't worry, I am.
Yeah, that's what school should really be. Like, I mean,
agree.
How did we ever come to? We could talk about how this came about, actually, because the school system, from what I've been told, actually was birthed from slavery.
Yep,
it's actually began. Yeah, this came from slavery itself, because the oppressors, or the rulers, whoever gained the power, who had slaves, wanted to teach the children of the slaves to obey commands, to learn how to fulfill their role as a slave. And this is what birthed the school system. Like, if you think really deeply about it, what is this whole concept of school? Well, it's, you have a child, and then you give the child away to a system of strangers, and they raise your child for you.
Basically.
It's right. Like,
yes.
I remember in grade 4, I think, or grade 6, it was grade 4 or grade 6, my teacher, I'll just call her Mrs. S. I was going to say her name, but I guess I should respect privacy. But she said to the whole class on the first day, well, kids, and she was really kind of sort of mean, really authoritative, but she said, you guys better like me. Do you guys like me? You better learn to like me because we're going to spend the next year together. You'll be spending more time with me than your parents.
I was told that too by a teacher in grade 4.
Oh,
I
wild.
was told the exact same thing, man.
Yeah. And
Yep.
it's true.
Yeah.
And so if you really think about this, this is part of becoming more conscious and aware, right? Where you start to think for yourself. You start to just think and ask questions. Is that really a good plan? Like, to prepare a human being for life?
Yeah.
You first take them from their parents by force too, because there's not a lot of kids that want to sit in a chair and learn all the subjects that are forced on them throughout the day, right? It's like
No.
oftentimes it's 6, 8 different subjects. You have to learn these things. You have to study these things. Then you're under pressure. You have to prove that you've listened. You have to repeat, right? Prove it.
Yep.
And like, I remember when I was done university, I had nightmares for months. I kept waking up having nightmares that I was back in another freaking exam.
Yeah, same. I hated them.
Thank you. Well, and I don't use my university degree today.
Neither do I.
There's some value in it, but
Yeah.
there's a really big movement happening in the world now called free schooling.
Yes.
Or world schooling. And I just went to a talk by a woman who raised her kids this way. No school. Their kids did not go to school. It's a whole new way. And this is part of spirituality. It's to think for ourselves, be willing to change our belief systems, change the whole structure of everything if we need to find a new and better way that's more conscious and loving. And we got to take responsibility for doing it. If we just agree to how things are, it never changes.
Yep. I'm spot on agreeing with you. And it's like, I see those kids that are those imaginative souls that deep down know what's going on, because I'm still working in schools at the moment, just doing some after school programs. I'll never go back to teaching. But the thing is, what I'm seeing are those kids that are so imaginative and so creative are being just shunted, and then they're labeled with autism and ADHD and all this bullshit. Now, I'm getting passionate too. They're labeled with all this bullshit, but they're just souls that want to be out in nature, outside, playing in water, playing in dirt, and connecting with themselves and nature again. Yeah, mate, there's heaps of them right now, and it's fucking bullshit that they're stuck in a fucking classroom. I'm just getting passionate now. You brought it out.
It's good. You're being real.
Yeah, they're stuck in a fucking classroom being told that they have ADHD, they have autism. You can't do this. You can't do that. You need a teaching aid with you full time. It's just bullshit. Get them outside, and then oh my god, they'll have all their problems just gone away. Barefoot in the dirt's a good start. Jesus,
that's really good advice. I appreciate your realness just now.
Yeah.
I have a 15-step emotional healing process that I teach for cancer prevention, and it's part of reversing cancer too. But it's called the Real Self Emotional Healing Process. Yeah. And the foundation of healing is being real and actually expressing emotions. So I appreciate that you're just being real, but there's so much cultural, societal, like fear, like you got to act a certain way. You got to like keep the peace, all this stuff. And of course you don't want to cause problems, but there's a difference between just being real and expressing yourself, even if it includes some passion or intensity, versus causing a real problem. Like, we got to be real, man. We have emotions.
Yes.
So, but our emotions are shut down because, like you're saying, kids are labeled, kids are told there's something wrong with them. If you don't want to sit here and listen to this and learn all this, then you have ADHD.
Yep.
Or,
you don't obey the teacher. So you have obsessive compulsive disorder. You have OCD. Like, what the fuck is going on in there?
Yeah. I mean, of course the kid wants freedom.
Yeah.
So this unschooling and free school. Oh, it's called unschooling.
Yeah.
So I just met a woman. I'm going to interview her on my podcast that's coming up too.
Yeah.
She's raised her kids this way, and they're just geniuses. They have good relationships. They are happy. They all have their own businesses. They're out of the system.
Yeah.
We don't need the system. We just don't need the system. If the system was really good for us, great, but it's not. It's not built. The system's built by a lot of corruption, unfortunately. That's just how it is. Like, most politicians don't get into the work because they have
groomed
from their heart, it's
usually
selfish
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we gotta build the world the way we want to see it. So if
Yep.
we're gonna
Spot
end
on.
cancer, if we're gonna end cancer, we gotta step up to the plate and stop focusing on all this cure stuff and actually get deeper into like life, and
Yes.
start reshaping the lives of human beings.
Yep.
Starting right from childhood forward.
Yep. I
Yeah.
love it. What an awesome chat that was, man. That's so good. Like we could talk for hours. Like I think we have a lot in common. So that was an awesome chat, mate.
Yeah, it
Often
was cool
I
to hear some of the resonating things. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to releasing this one. So I was just going to finish off. I often ask a couple of questions at the end. So if any of that resonated with someone, they might they might actually have cancer. Who knows who's really listening to this? Cancer, or they're sort of stuck and they're on their journey or haven't started their journey. What would be your advice to those people to take that first step to their healing journey?
Okay, well, I'll give some advice just that they could apply without any further help, but then I'll also give some suggestions for help,
Yeah, sweet.
because it's not always, yeah, it's usually not really doable alone necessarily, although I don't want to like eliminate that possibility. But it's so if you have cancer, one of the most important things to do is to start um connecting to your emotions, which are associated to your life itself, like what's going on in your life, and also leading up to your diagnosis if you have cancer. So it's to connect to these and start processing them. That's why I have a 15-step emotional healing process, which like is way too much for you to explain. I have a whole training for it. So that's one thing I would suggest, is to learn how to do this. But one of the foundations of that is to spend time alone. So it's ironically, when you have if you have cancer, you should spend more time alone. Get into nature, get somewhere beautiful. Think about, be creative, use your imagination, like you said, Nathan.
Mm.
How can you create some beautiful time alone, and go do it? Then do some writing or even talk out loud and start just connecting to what's going on inside of you emotionally and psychologically. So you just be like, I feel like this, and you're just with yourself. It's just
Mm.
to move it out, like to get it out of you and in front of you, and bring more consciousness to it all, so you can start to kind of like process it. um so spending time alone, and make it a lifestyle habit too. 20 minutes a day at least of going for a walk or doing something where you're free, you're not in relationships. um so yeah, so that's one tip. It's really important. A lot of people don't take that seriously, and like eventually I just have to tell them, okay, have you done that yet? Because
Mm.
that you can't connect to yourself unless you're alone. If you're always with other people, you'll be preoccupied, putting your time and energy into relationships, but not putting it into you. And the only way to heal, the only way to reverse cancer and to heal long term, is to get into this deeper relationship with yourself.
I
So
agree.
I say this for deep reasons. Um, so that's one general tip. And with regards to food, just eat what you actually want to eat, as long as it's created
Yeah.
by God,
Yeah.
right? Created by nature, So real food is not created by man. It's pretty simple. Like,
Mm.
did man make oranges? No. Did man make eggs? No. Did man make chicken or a steak or spinach, broccoli? No. Eat those.
Mm.
Forget all the belief systems around it. If you go and eat man-made food, then you're getting into trouble, dangerous
Yeah.
territory. It's really simple. God already provided us what we need.
Mm.
We're part of the wheel of life. There's a reason animals and plants exist on this planet. The animals, the karma of an animal is to die as a food source. That's the life of an animal. Like if you're a mouse, you're probably going to get eaten by an owl or a cat or whatever. Um, that's the life of an animal. And there's deep reasons for this. We could do a whole podcast on that one day if you want. But
Part two.
so just eat real food that's not also laced with poisons and chemicals. And it's okay to eat meat. There's a lot of false stuff about eating meat and cancer and all this
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
As
Oh
long as
yeah.
the animal's been raised with love and consciousness, it will support you so much. If it was a factory farmed animal, don't touch it. Totally different
Yeah.
thing. And then I would suggest hiring a cancer coach. I've got like something like 60 cancer coaches now around
Yeah, I'm
the
taking
world.
your course, by the way.
Oh, you are?
I want to, yeah. That's another.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, sign
Please
me up.
do, because that's that's the kind of people that I would want to take my training, people that are truly passionate,
Oh, yeah.
like truly coming from their soul,
Yeah.
wanting to contribute to the real change. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had 4 people take my training now that had cancer, and all 4 people reversed their cancer.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No
That's
treatments,
awesome. Yeah.
just with the training. And a couple of them did sessions with me too. So
Yep.
what I want to suggest, so that's my main advice. Start spending more time alone, connect to your emotions. You got to process the stresses in your life to where you come to resolution. So that's easier said than done, but that is the thing to do. And you can hire a coach to support yourself through that, specifically a cancer coach, because they have this training. So of course you can hire me, but I also have coaches. Some people hire me now for the initial session and then work with one of my coaches for the whole process.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm $600 US a session.
I saw that
I mean,
before.
but you know, I've had so many people come to me and they say, I just finished spending $100,000 on treatments and going to a healing center and buying all these special supplements for over the last 2 years. And so then they look at me and I'm my session's $500. And they just think, well, he's not gonna be able to help me. I got to go and do like the expensive stuff, you know, like, but it doesn't work. So I've kind of learned that I've had people reverse their cancer now for the first time. Just happened once, but now, because I'm always refining, one session, their tumor's gone 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah, because I know how this works.
Yeah.
I really, spending 10 years with people with cancer really taught me a lot. Like, I wasn't fooling around. I was learning the whole time. That's why I'm teaching this now, because I really like want to bring this out to the world so that we can really start addressing this. So
Love it.
anyways, yeah, my sessions are worth it. I gotta actually just, when I work with clients, I work with them once, twice, a couple times, and never see them again because it actually works.
Yeah. That's
Versus
how it should work. That's how
right.
the system should be. We should be just seeing these people once or twice, and then we never see them again. People have a relationship with their doctor. They think that the doctor's the greatest person ever. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You don't have to see a doctor all the time. I'm saying a doctor for 4 years and I'll never see one again. But, you know, like it's the same what you're saying. They see you once or twice, see you later, go spread your wings and live the life you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doctors are really only supposed to be helping people with like acute things. You break your leg, a doctor can be really helpful. Well, and even a tumor. If you have a tumor causing a seizure in your brain and you can't even function, a doctor could save your life. But doctors aren't trained with how to heal long term. They're not trained with resolving the deeper things, and that's just the truth of it, you know. So we need this to change. So yeah, I would suggest if a person has cancer, they hire a cancer coach trained by me, because to this day I still haven't come across other sources that really truly are addressing the root cause. Things are moving in the right direction, but there's a lot of stuff that's not accurate. So you could take my training. You could do, so those would be the 2 things. I would say
we'll put links to
take
that
the
in
training.
Yeah, we'll put links to that. Links to Paul's stuff will go on the bottom. Links to his book, which is just here for those that are watching on YouTube and Rumble. We'll put Paul's podcast in there. We'll put everything we need for those that are interested in contacting Paul. I highly recommend you do it. So we'll put all his links in the bottom. Shoot him a message, shoot him an email, and start your journey. And I'm looking forward to some Australians getting to see you, mate, because there's some Aussies here that there's a lot of people here that need some help. So.
Right on. Thanks a lot, Nathan. My website's called wheeloflifeacademy.com.
Yeah. Get down there and shoot him an email and see stuff. It's bloody awesome, and we're all looking forward to part 2, mate, because this book was awesome. So
right
all
on.
right.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
If there's an affirmation you want to finish with, Paul, feel free, and we'll end it there. And just an affirmation.
An affirmation.
Yeah, off the top of your head. Put you on the spot.
Well, I think one of the most important, okay, an affirmation.
Yeah.
You can't fail.
Love it.
There's only temporary defeat.
That's awesome. We'll finish
So
on there.
as long as you learn and grow, you'll accomplish your dreams.
That's awesome. I got goosebumps. That's awesome. That was an awesome chat. I'll see you guys real soon. I've got some awesome guests coming on, and I thank Paul. I'm so grateful. He responded to my message, and yeah, get in contact with Paul, guys. Like, this work is so powerful. So thank you, Paul, for coming on, sharing all that awesome stuff. Our tangents were epic. So I'm looking
You're
forward
welcome,
to it.
Nathan. Thanks for getting passionate with me.
Thanks for getting passionate with me too, mate. That was awesome.
Okay.
All right, I'll stop recording.